What's up and welcome to this guide on Lipo chargers, or more specifically Lipo chargers for Airsoft. My name is Shoe and I'm going to be going through with you a few tips and tricks on what to look for when buying a Lipo charger, how to charge your Lipo batteries, both 2-cell and 3-cell, and just a few general kind of like look after yourself notes when dealing with Lipo batteries. Now you may have heard a lot of information online that Lipos are quite dangerous and you should use NIMs instead. Personally, I don't think Lipos are dangerous enough to warrant purely using NIMs over them. NIMs are essentially a different type of battery. They've got a different construction and they're classed to be a lot safer than Lipos, because Lipos, if pierced or damaged, have a tendency to catch fire. Through proper use though and looking after your cells, you're probably not going to run into any issues. It's something to bear in mind, but I don't think that is the be-all and end-all decision to make. The benefits of using Lipos to NIMs generally are they're smaller, they're lighter, and they give you a better delivery of power. So what does that mean? What does better delivery of power mean? Essentially, it means that your trigger will be snappier, it will allow your motor to run faster, so it'll also increase your rate of fire. So all in all, NIMs, Lipos, they're all going to power your guns, but Lipos are pretty much just going to do it better. And with that being the case, that brings us to what we have on the table. We have got our Lipo charger here, and then we've got 2 Lipo safe bags. Now what's a Lipo safe bag, you may be wondering? Well, a Lipo safe bag is essentially what it says on the tin. It's a bag that's safe for you to put your Lipos in. Now I would recommend to put in 1 Lipo per bag, because say for example, if an issue happened with this Lipo, then the other one's probably going to burn up and die as well. That's not a great thing. However, they will burn up and be safe inside the bag, so nothing else will catch fire if the bag does its job right. Lipo safe bags are very cheap as well. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them on eBay, and you can get them in a plethora of different sizes. I've just gone for little ones and I've labeled them 2. This one says 7.4 and this one says 11.1. But what does that mean? Well, Lipos for Airsoft come in pretty much 2 different sizes, 7.4 volts and 11.1 volts. Now I own 2 of each type of battery, purely because I started off on the 7.4s and then I moved over to 11.1s. And oh my days, it was such a big difference that I just recommend you start straight on 11.1s if your gun is made for it. Now we only need to focus on 1 battery each, so I'm going to move one of each of them away so we can have a little look at these individually. So this is the 7.4 battery and this is the 11.1. Now the very obvious difference between these two is this has 2 sticky bits and this has 3. That's because the 7.4 volt is a 2-cell battery and the 11.1 is a 3-cell battery. Now why is that important? Well, having that additional cell on this battery allows it to come up to the 11.1 volts, which, as I mentioned earlier, gives you that higher power and higher rate of fire. And if you're using a strong spring in your AEG and you have a high torque motor, then having the higher voltage will allow your motor to cycle faster as well. Apart from that, the batteries are essentially exactly the same. They've both got their positive and negative terminals, and they've both got their balanced cables. With batteries though, you can get different types of connectors. On these batteries here, they've both got Dean's connectors on, which I added aftermarket. Now these batteries did come with Tamiya connectors on, which look like this, but Tamiya connectors don't generally offer a great contact surface area and are just kind of naff. So a top tip from me, if you do get any batteries, make sure you get them with Dean's connectors on, or if they don't have Dean connectors on, buy some Dean connectors, get yourself a soldering iron and swap them over yourself. But remember, you're going to have to swap the connector on your gun as well. A few moments ago we mentioned these balancer cables, but what are they for? Well, we're going to have a little look at the charger first and circle back to that in a bit. Let's have a little look at our charger. Now the first thing you're probably going to notice is it says Buzzflyer at the top. Yes, this charger was meant originally for helicopters, but helicopters use Lipo batteries, so I use this to charge my Airsoft Lipo batteries. They're all Lipo batteries, it doesn't really matter. The one big thing I will implore to you when you're buying a charger is do not skimp. You can get chargers out there which are like 15 quid, 20 quid. They have a load of like flashing lights on there. Please don't get one of those. They are terrible. The only thing I always see of them online is just people asking, What does this button flashing mean? I don't know. It means that your battery's dead. Like, you know, who knows? Who knows what it is? Put a decent amount of money into your charger, no less than £35, I would say, and make sure you get one with a screen that actually tells you what's going on. With this charger, it's got an LCD screen and it tells me exactly what it is I am doing. Now, granted, with the lighting, you may not be able to see that it has words on there, but it does, and it tells me what it's doing, which is great. I did also have to add a Dean's connector to my charger too, so make sure if you are swapping them over yourselves, you buy enough of them. I mean, you can get a bag of like 50 connectors on eBay for, I don't know, like a tenner, so they're not expensive. When looking at your charger, you've got your positive and negative terminals, but most importantly on the side, you have all of these connectors here. Now these are your balancer sockets. What balancing is a type of charging. So you can put your batteries onto charge, it will charge them up to the correct voltage, and then you're good to go. However, because Lipos have different cells in them, charging, just regular charging anyway, doesn't make sure that these are all at the same voltage. With this battery here, it's 11.1 volts. So each of these cells will roughly get to about 3.7 volts when charging. However, that only happens on purpose when you're doing a balancing charge. You plug this cable into the socket and then it monitors each cell individually. So if this cell is getting overcharged, it will stop pumping power into this one and start pumping it into one of these two. Charging it evenly is very, very important, as if you overcharge one of your cells, you can kill it or make it become a legitimate danger. For that reason, please don't use the general charge function on your Lipo charger. You may start off with no problems at all. However, over time, if one of your cells is getting charged more than the other one, you genuinely could be facing a bit of an issue. So with our charger on the screen here, it says Lipo charge 1 amp 11.1 volts. That is the stock setting on this charger here because I don't use the charge function. Instead, I'm going to come across to the side to Lipo balance. Now again, just to reiterate, because it is a very important point, please only balance charge your cells. On here it says 2 amps, 11.1 volts, 3S, which means 3 cells. Now all batteries will have a different amp rating for how you should charge them, and this is very important when you come to charge your Lipo batteries. The easy way to do this though, take your battery, have a look at the capacity. So for this one, it's 2000 mAh, and you divide that by 1000. So the charge rate for this battery will be 2000 divided by 1000, which equals 2. So with that, I come to my charger and I put 2 amps in, and that is ready to charge. And this would be the exact same amount of amps as if I used my 7.4 volt batteries, just because my 7.4 volts are also 2000 mAh capacity. So if your cells are 1000 mAh, you would charge them at 1 amp. If they were 1400 mAh, you'd charge them at 1.4 amps. And if they were 4500 mAh, you would charge them at 4.5 amps. With the ampage out of the way, let's actually look at charging these batteries. So we come across to the side here, we take our balancer cable and we put it into the right slot. So on here, you've got a load of different connectors, and we also have a little map here telling us which is the right one. So we've got 2 cell, 3 cell, 4 cell, 5 cell, and 6 cell. With Airsoft though, generally speaking, we only have 2 or 3. So I take my balancer cable and I connect it to the 3 cell port, and then I take my positive and negative terminal and connect it to the positive and negative terminal of the charger. But before we press the charge button, we need to take our Lipo safe bag, grab our cells and put them inside. This may seem like a silly, unimportant step, but it is very important you do this. Even better than putting them in the bag, or in addition to putting them in the bag, would then be to put them in a ceramic pot, something that you would get at a garden center, and charge them inside that. Just because if an issue did happen, and for some reason the Lipo safe bag didn't protect the batteries and didn't stop any flames or battery juices from coming out of the pack, the ceramic pot would hold it all together and stop any fire or issues spreading further. The ideal scenario for me would to be in a garage and charge them in there, somewhere away from the house and away from, you know, flammable materials. Sadly, I don't have a garage, but I do it in a very safe manner, making sure that the batteries are in their Lipo safe bag and also making sure that I keep an eye on them the whole time. Even if you charge them in a garage, in a bag, in a pot, always make sure you are present to make sure there are no issues. Because if you're not in there and an issue begins, that's not great. But for now anyway, our batteries are in the Lipo safe bag. our balancer cable is connected, our positive and negative terminals are connected. So I press and hold the start button. It does a battery check quick, comes up with 3 cells on each side. I then confirm that that is the correct amount, press start again, and then it begins to charge. So it comes up to 2 amps, shows me the voltage of the pack here, so it says 11.6. Generally, it will charge up to about 12.5, 12.8. Lipo chargers can get warm when charging your batteries up, and they can also emit a squealing noise. That's perfectly normal. However, on your charger, you may have an air or vent hole with a fan inside. With my charger, I've got this hole here where there's a fan cooling the charger. So I need to make sure that this stays well ventilated and I don't put anything on top of it. If I charge my batteries and put them on top and covered that, my charger will get hot, and again, that could cause issues. If for any reason I need to stop charging, I just come here, press the button, and then it stops them straight away. I would also recommend though, fully disconnecting your battery pack from the charger and then moving it away from the charger as a just in case. Lipo batteries do not like to be fully discharged or even discharged a lot below what their minimum voltage is. In fact, a lot of guns, and indeed it's the case with MOSFETs, will stop firing the gun if the battery voltage gets too low. And some of them will even emit a noise letting you know that the voltage has dropped too far. If that happens, stop running your gun. Also, when you finish your day of airsoft, don't leave your battery in the gun as it will drain the power. Waking up the next day to find a dead lipo in your gun, not only is that dangerous, as you should keep it in a lipo safe bag, but you're going to have a 0 voltage lipo, which could be the end of the battery. Now, there are some tips and tricks you can do in order to revive a dead lipo. I'm not going to go into the details of what they are. There's guides online. However, I've had that happen to one of my 7.4 volt batteries, which got taken all the way down to 0 volts. Now, the way in which I brought that back to life was I charged it under a NIM charge on my charger on a 0.1 amp power. I did that until the battery got to about 6.8 volts, 6.9. I then cancelled that charge, moved it across into a regular LiPo balancing charge, and it picked it up and continued as normal. This isn't something I am directly recommending to you. If you have a LiPo that's at 0 volts and you can't charge it on your charger, then I would say potentially something for you to look at. However, proceed with extreme caution. Charging at that 0.1 amps does take a while to get to that 6.8 volt territory, so you have to watch it consistently for quite a while. And also, there's no guarantee that it's going to save the LiPo. You could do that, do a balancing charge, and then the LiPo just drain all that power again. So no guarantees. I'm not recommending you do it, but it is something you can do to revive a dead LiPo. Storing your batteries when you're not using them is another important area to be aware of. And yes, my clothes have changed. I filmed this the day after the rest of the other videos because I thought it was a good thing to include in this video. Just go with it, it's fine. LiPo batteries do hold their charge quite well. So if you finished your day of airsofting and you know you're going to be going the next week and your batteries are 7.4 volt batteries and they're on about 7.4, 7.5, or if they're 11.1 volts and they're on like 11.2, then that's okay to leave them there in that state. However, if you know you're not going to be going airsofting for a few months, kind of like the state that we're in now, what I like to do is give them a full charge and then check their voltage every month or so just to make sure that they are still looking okay. That will help keep your batteries healthy and ready to go next time you go to the field. And with that being said, that's pretty much it for this rundown on LiPos and chargers for airsoft use. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and helpful in some way. If you have any questions, please drop them down below in the comments to me. I'll check them out and reply if I can help you out any further. And until next time, I'll see you then. I've been Shoe. Stay fresh.